But we can take it even further. And you can see here, let's say I've got this function called test function. And it's got a required parameter, A optional parameter, B, that's default of 5, and an optional parameter, C, that defaults to 10. So if I print those, all it does is just print those values out, because that's the simplest thing I could think of. Okay, so prints A, B, and C in this sentence. So if I put test function, all I really need to give it is just one number. It'll automatically go into the A slot because that's the required. If I give it 3, 7, they fill up in order. Okay, so the order of these parameters matters, because if I say 3, 7 and I leave off the third one, it will fill them in order. The first number is going to go to the required. The second number is going to go to the first optional, and there is no third number, so we take the default. So this will print 3, 7, and 10. On this one, if I want to skip this one and go with the default, then what I would do is provide that argument with the keyword and an equal sign. So I'm telling it the first one required is 25, and the third one, C, is 24. So this will print 25, 5, and 24. Now, why would you want to do that? Beats me. But there may be a situation for that. Now, and here's a really odd case. Never actually had to do this for any reason other than to demonstrate it in this class. But if you want to change the order of the parameters or the arguments that you give, you have to provide this one because it's required. And when you define the function, the required argument has to come first. So if you have 2 required arguments, the required ones go first, then the optionals, always when you define it. If you want to provide the arguments out of order, you can provide a named reference to the required arguments, but you have to have that. You have to have it. Even if it's out of order, you have to make sure that there's something that's going to go into that A slot. If you just have C equals 50, you'll get an error because A is required, right? So let's look at this. Okay, so let's just run these. Okay, so the first one right here prints 3, 7, and 10. This one will print 25 in the A, and then B is 5 because that's the default value of B, and I didn't name it, and then C is 24. And then on this last one, A is 100 and C is 50. Now, if I just take that out, you can see I'm getting a highlight here that indicates something's wrong. And when I run that, it tells me I'm missing a required argument. But as soon as I have something in that first position, or specifically referred to as A, I'm in good shape. Okay, so 3, 7, 50. If I provide all 3 arguments, only the first one is required. These are optional, but it'll fill them in order. So 3 goes here, 7 goes here, 50 goes here. Okay, so that's how we can use named arguments. And by the way, this is something you're going to do not necessarily in custom functions, but when you're using external functions that are part of Python, you will use named arguments like this, because they might have 10 different optional arguments and you might want the third one. So rather than having blanks, You're just going to name that argument and say, this is the value I want to submit to that argument for the function. But when we get there, I'll remind you of this. So not a lot of pressure to remember everything.